So we're 8 minutes till midnight. So now I know that's how long it takes to completely lose control of my body.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Today, I'm going to see how many deer I can mount in 24 hours. Now, what I'm going to do is after each deer head that I finish, I'm going to give y'all a taxidermy tip. So after each deer, y'all pay attention. I'm going to let y'all know a little bit of something that might be relevant to what I'm using today and on into tomorrow in the making of this video that'll help me get these things finished. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to eat, and I might even take a nap. I might even sleep a little bit. Right now, it's about 9:45. I'm going to get started at 10 o'clock. I figure the best thing to do, I'm going to be running my GoPro, so I'll be able to show you all the time on my phone. You'll be able to see the time and the date. Now, I've already got all of my ear liners ready to go. I've got all my eyes ready to go that I need for each deer. I have got the deer forms ready. Antlers are tapped. Now, I've also got 15 capes ready to go. They're all right there. I've got them all tanned. They've been shaved once before each mount. I'm going to go ahead and run them across there again and shave them down really thin. So I think everything else is ready to go. My goal, I believe, is going to be 8. If I could do 8 in 24 hours, I would be ecstatic. After about probably 8 to 10 hours, I believe physically it's going to be tough to keep on going at any kind of pace whatsoever, depending on how my back, my feet, and my fingers feel. So we're just going to have to see how that goes. Well, all right, it's about to hit 10 o'clock, so y'all wish me luck. Let's get the show on the road. Let's go. All right, so tip number 1, let's talk about speed versus efficiency. A lot of people are going to think that on this video, I'm going too fast, I'm going to compromise quality. But I'm not actually going to be mounting deer any faster than I normally would. The speed that I mount them is going to stay basically the same. The difference is efficiency. The way that I work in my shop, I do batches of 15 because that's how many stands I've got to put deer heads on. So what I'll do, I'll tan 15 capes, I'll get 15 forms ready, 15 antlers prepped. I'll get all of that stuff done, and I do it in batches. So in one day, I may not do anything except prep forms. The next day, I may get all the ear liners ready. I may cut out all my eyes. But rather than trying to do all these steps daily, where you can only get to 1 deer or 2 deer just because you're having to do each step and you're having to walk back and forth, you're having to get different tools out and put them back up. It's just you're working circles around yourself. You can save a whole lot of time just by saving walking and saving movement. Stand in one spot and do one job until that job is finished. Got your supplies where you need them, do what you need to do that day, and move on. All right, tip number 2. Let's talk about bagging deer heads. I've touched on this just a little bit in the video that I did on that specifically, but I haven't really discussed it a whole lot in this kind of situation. And where that helps is when I'm mounting several deer at one time, you can take a full-size garbage bag and put it down over the rack, body, and everything, and it will just about completely stop the drying process. What it allows to happen, the glue takes a little while to set up. And if you're not careful, the cape will dry out faster than the glue will set. That's what creates drumming. It creates the ear liners that even created on the body and the musculature, everything else. But you can take that bag and put over it, and it will create an atmosphere that holds moisture. And as that moisture keeps absorbing back into that cape, the glue is allowed to set for a few days until it gets some of the moisture out of it. And as it starts to tack up, you can take the bag off, work some details into it, and it'll hold a whole lot better. Now, you have to be really careful not to keep it bagged for too long because that moisture can create mold. But for 3-4 days, I would definitely leave a bag on there, take it off a few hours a day, let some of it air out, put the bag back on it at night. And over a period of time, you'll learn how often to keep it on, how often to keep it off, to where that glue gets just right. And you'll start getting a feel for when you need to take that bag off and everything's ready to set on up and dry. Number 3, form prep. I haven't really touched on this a whole lot ever. What I do, I've got a board that's got some screws screwed to it. Matter of fact, let me show y'all what this little thing is here. You can buy form prep tools. I just made this one. Just a board. It's got a couple of screws in it. And I'll use this right here, and I'll tap the form with it. Puts a bunch of little holes in it. What that does is when you put that glue on there, it presses down into those holes, and where it's sticking to that form, it kind of creates little anchors of glue that's got more surface area to hold that cape down onto that form. It's very important to do. Like I said, I've never really mentioned it, and I don't know why, but when I'm prepping forms, when I'm cutting my lip lines, all that stuff, I'll go ahead and put all those little holes all in it, and then when I go to mount the thing up, it just holds a whole lot better. Make sure too, whenever you get that cape on there, to press it down real good. You can see in the video where I was pressing down and getting all the air and the excess glue out of it. That will also help keep it from drumming. And if you've got a high spot where glue is, that glue will dry and you'll end up with a gap between the glue and the form, and sometimes that will also drum. So make sure you get that good and flat, get your holes in there or scratch it up, whatever you need to do, get that surface, that smooth surface off of that form before you go to glue up your cape. Tip number 4, a lot of people have asked me, how much glue do you use? If you put too much glue on a form, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of extra. It's going to drip out all over the place. It's going to take too long to dry. If you don't put enough on there, you're not going to get really good adhesion. So this is just a rule of thumb. You can see in the video where I'm making little lines on the deer. Basically what I do, I'll take my fingertips, I'll put the glue on the form, take my fingertips and mash them together like that and put them against the form and then rake down. And it'll leave little lines of glue in there, and that's basically my measurement. Like that amount of glue throughout the entire form, for me, has been just perfect. So that's what I would suggest trying the next time. If you're not really sure of how much glue to put on that form, try that right there, and I think it's going to get you real close.
All right, so it is 5:43. This is deer number 5. And Christy's about to be home from work. We're going to get some supper. And I'm going to sit down for just a second and let my feet stop throbbing. And I'm going to get back at it. So y'all stay tuned.
All right, tip number 5, taping your finger. You can see in this video where I was putting tape on my finger. I do it every single deer that I mount. What I do is I wrap that medical tape around my finger, and I use an L-shaped cape needle. When I put that needle up against that tape, I can press, I can stitch all day long, all night long, all week long, and never even get a callus on my finger. It really takes the pressure off your skin and keeps from eating into your finger when you're doing multiple deer like that. There's a lot that you have to look at. If you're doing a deer a day, it's not that big a deal, but if you start doing multiples, you really got to take some different kind of precautions to make sure that physically you're able to go on through with all that work. You know, make sure that your fingers and your hands and everything stay caught up with what you think you can do mentally.
All right, got a full belly, and it is now 7:39. Going to get back at it again. Start with this guy.
Tip number 6. This is a really great one, y'all. Eye plastic. Keeping the eye plastic on the eyes. What it is, when you cut these eyes off of your cardboard, they're covered in a little layer of plastic. And that layer of plastic, if you'll just cut it around the bottom of that eye, leave the plastic on it, mount the deer with the plastic on it. Once you're completely done, you want to epoxy it, paint it, everything you need to do. When you get done, you can take a scalpel, cut around the very edge of that, peel that plastic off, and it is clean as it can be. That's why you're going to see in these videos, my eyes have got glue and they got trash all over them. Looks like I'm not cleaning them up, but you really don't have to. Once you get all that completely finished, then you can cut around there, peel that off, and you're going to be good to go. It looks freaking awesome.
It's 10:34, and I'm stitching on deer number 7. Just figured I'd check in for just a minute and let y'all know how my body is progressing. So far, my feet are hurting pretty bad. They're still okay if I keep alternating where I'm standing, but I have a feeling it's going to get worse. My fingers are still in pretty good shape, although my index finger is trying to lock up on me, kind of like hammer toe in a finger. Aside from that, I feel pretty good. I don't know, I've got a feeling that here in the next few, I'm going to start to get kind of fatigued. And as it gets later tonight, I'm going to start getting really tired too. I'm going to try to keep it rolling. So y'all hang in there.
Tip number 7, use a hammer. You see in this video where I'm using a hammer to beat on the back of the head. What I'm doing where the back of that skull cap is, where I trimmed it, it's a little bit sharp on the edges. I took that hammer, just popped the edge of those sharp spots to make sure that I can get that smooth transition as I do my clay work and everything. I don't want any of those little sharp spots sticking through. As that hide dries up, you don't want to have it. It'll make a little shelf, make a little ugly spot on there. We'll make sure that's smooth. It also comes in handy if you've got some seams on that form, and you can hit those with a hammer and just smooth that down a little bit. You can also use it on the back where you do your stitches. Once you get those stitches, after they've sat probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and that cape has started to try to tack up a little bit, you take that hammer, barely tap on it. Don't hit it too hard or you make dents in the foam, and it'll have a little dent in it. But if you'll take it, just tap on that seam, it'll flatten that seam right out, and it makes it really smooth looking. So y'all keep that in mind.
Y'all can't tell, I'm starting to lose a little bit of my motor function. What time it is. So we're 8 minutes till midnight. So now I know that's how long it takes to completely lose control of my body. So that's deer number 8. It is 12:42. I'm going to go up to the house, get me something to drink, sit down for just a minute and take a break, because it is getting rough. Rough. Making good progress.
All right, tip number 8. I guess you can see from this video that you should expect the unexpected. Now, when I say that, make sure that you don't ever be too careful with a deer head. Now, you don't want to go around and like break the tips of his antlers off or anything like that if you can help it, but things are going to happen. There's going to be accidents. There's going to be stuff happen. And you need to know going into it that you can fix anything. Really, the only thing I would say that can't be fixed is hair slippage. There's things you can do to kind of slow down or stop hair slippage to a point. But if you've got a good quality hide and it's tanned well and the hair is not slipping, then pretty much anything you do to the form, you can tear the head off of it. You can rip. Drop your foam and bust it all to pieces. I get in forms all the time that's got stuff broke off of and stuff, and I just fix them. It's easier than sending them back and getting different ones. It's not even worth the trouble. So it's not that big a deal. If something stupid happens, don't worry about it. Just do a little research, figure out how to fix it, and just stay calm. There's a way to fix everything. So kind of think outside the box and learn to, if you have a problem, kind of embrace that problem, especially if you're learning how to do taxidermy. If you can get capes, even if they've got holes in them, if they've got problems with them, if there's stuff wrong with, like their nose pads missing, crazy stuff, mount those deer, because eventually you're going to have to deal with it anyway. You're better off learning how to do stuff like that and troubleshooting than you are learning perfection on the first deer, because, 1 out of every 5 you get are going to be gorgeous. The rest of them are going to have issues that's going to need fixing. So, just like I said, think outside the box. Always expect the unexpected.
All right, back at it. It is 7:19 in the morning. And I tell y'all what happened that I did not expect. Now, I knew that I was probably going to get fatigued, maybe my feet hurt or something, but I've actually felt really good, except for my fingertips. I was going to go up there to the house last night and just rest just a minute, get me something to drink. But my fingertips are so tender right now from getting that modeling clay. I did not see that coming, but I'm telling you, like right now, they're okay, but they're tingling But last night, I got up there and sat down. After I sat there a minute, it got to where I couldn't even touch the ends of my fingers. So hopefully they'll be good for another couple of deer. I think I might be able to do 2 more by 10 o'clock. So that's going to be our goal. We're going to start with this guy. I got 1 more that we're going to try to put together by 10. So let's go.
All right, tip number 9. You're going to notice that as your deer dries, all of the water and the hide paste, a lot of it will run down to the bottom of the brisket. Now, if you use too much glue, this is going to happen really badly. If you don't get your cape dry enough, it's going to happen really badly. But one way that you can combat that, if you start having one that just does not want to stick, and you want to pay attention to this very early in the drying stage, the first day or two, if that brisket does not want to stick to that form, you're going to get too much water in there. You're going to basically wash your hide paste out of there. It's not going to stick ever. So what you want to do is take that form and stand it up to where the nose is pointing straight up in the sky, and let your brisket come straight down where that water can drain out the back side of that. After a few days, it's going to start to tack up. The water is going to be gone out of it. You stand it back up again if you need to. But that's what I do with a lot of mine. When I've got them on this stand, you can see how these forms right here are stood up. If I ever have any trouble with any that have got a little bit too much moisture, a little too much water, they're not wanting to stick, especially on like a wall pedestal. Some of them are bad about that because of the angles that they're at. But I will stand them up like that and let that water drain out the back side of it. It works great. Okay, tip number 10. This one right here is a gold mine. Y'all, there's a thing called a pin pusher or a brad pusher. I don't know if you've ever seen one. This is kind of new to me. I've been doing this now for, I don't know, 6 months maybe. This little guy right here. It is spring loaded. This little thing right here is spring loaded. It's got a magnet inside of it. And it takes these little bitty brads. I don't know if you can see that enough in the camera, like that. A little bit, it looks like a finishing nail. That thing goes down inside that brad pusher, and anywhere on that deer that you need that hide to stick, you stick that thing down in there, put it on there, push it down, and it pushes that brad down in there, and then the spring pops back out, and it's just down in there, and you can't see it. The hair hides it. I use it in the corners of the eyes. I use it in the tear ducts. I use it on the bottom of the chin. I use it down the necklines. Anywhere where normally you'd have to card deer. I mean, you can use these brads. The things, they come in like a pack of $1 billion. I mean, they're so cheap. And man, you talk about saving you some time, especially when you're doing like what I'm doing in this video. If you want to go and mount 15, 20 deer in a week, you can mount them up, put them all together, and that cape does not move. They look just as good as if you had spent 8 or 10 hours a piece on them, poking and prodding. And all this does is skip every single one of those steps. You do not compromise quality, and you end up being able to do so much more work in so much less time. And in all honesty, the final work, especially around the eyes, to me looks better than what I was doing before, spending more time on it. So I would highly recommend going and buying one of these things. They are fantastic.